Force of Americas. When the world needs answers against Somalia pirates, only one man can fight off Curry like no other. Introducing JD Vance Fraud Task Force of America's action figure.
The extraction of wealth from American taxpayers to people who don't belong here is the primary cause of the national debt, and this is the first ever effort to shut that down.
America, Stephen Miller just stood in the Oval Office and said illegal immigrant fraud is the primary cause of the national debt.
And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about.
Overnight, by stopping theft, Trump signed an executive order. JD Vance is now legally in charge of the whole of government fraud task force. Scott Bessett is already cracking down on wire transfers in Minnesota. This, my friends, is actually happening, and it is real.
This executive order in front of you will establish a new task force aimed at rooting out that fraud, returning potentially billions or tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of dollars to the American taxpayer.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Hundreds of billions back to you, back to me, the taxpayer. Let me show you the whole picture from the Oval Office signing to Bessett already working on the ground level in Minnesota. Let me walk you through what this executive order actually does, because the media isn't necessarily covering it. Details under 17 opinion pieces about tone. The task force is chaired by Vice President JD Vance, and Vice Chair is Andrew Ferguson, head of FTC. And the entire point, in plain English, is to force government agencies that previously operated in silos to actually talk to one another. I know it's a crazy, wild concept. It sounds obvious. But it wasn't happening.
So Treasury would have evidence of financial fraud, but wasn't talking to the Department of Justice about it. Health and Human Services had evidence of Medicaid fraud, but wasn't talking to the Department of Treasury about it. So what this executive order does is force the entire apparatus of the federal government to do two things: stop the fraud in the American taxpayer and make sure that the benefits that ought by right go to American citizens.
They have evidence. They just weren't sharing it by design or incompetence. You pick one or the other. The agencies had receipts sitting in filing cabinets on different servers in different departments, and nobody talked to one another. Was that by accident, or was it a feature of an administration that didn't want fraud to be found? Because JD Vance just told you the structure exists to allow these things to actually continue. And this particular executive order forces the walls to come down.
This will not be like a Kamala, where she was put in charge of the border and she never went there. JD, right? You promise?
I promise, sir.
Trump made him say, "I promise, sir," on camera. That wasn't an accent. That was accountability on public record. Because we all remember Kamala Harris, the quote-unquote border czar. Kamala Harris was the border czar for 4 years, never visited the border except for once for a photo op. Border Patrol testified she never called them, never visited, never checked in. Trump made JD promise publicly on video with the world watching that the task force wouldn't be a decorative feature to the administration.
Fraud Task Force of Americas. When the world needs answers against Somalia pirates, only one man can fight off Curry like no other. Introducing JD Vance Fraud Task Force of America's action figure.
Now, while the signing ceremony was happening in the Oval Office, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessett was sitting in front of cameras explaining what active enforcement looks like right now.
So we're lowering that to 3,000, and we're also targeting the two counties here, and we're going to do enhanced surveillance. And from now on, anyone who wires money out from one of these money service businesses has to check a box saying whether they are on public assistance. And if you are on public assistance, we are going to start pushing that you cannot wire money out of the country.
Oh, gosh. Well, what if they lie and they don't tell us for public assistance?
Well, then
that's a crime, lying on a federal form.
We're going to follow it up.
Check a box. That's it. That's the entire mechanism. And if they lie, it's a federal crime. Here's why this is genius in its simplicity. The transaction reporting threshold gets particularly lowered. Anybody sending money overseas for these businesses has to declare whether they're on a public assistance or not. And if they're on Medicaid or SNAP benefits, program designed to help people in need, and you're wiring money out of the country, there's questions that need to be asked here.
Our generosity has been taken advantage of.
Our generosity is funding al-Shabaab, an Iranian interest it could be.
Well, the money.
This is really bad.
The money is supposed to go for alleged asylum seekers and their families and children. And if you are wiring the money out of the country, one of two things must be true. You are getting too much money and your benefits should be cut, or you are part of this conspiracy. Where did that money come from? We're going to find it out.
Al-Shabaab, Iranian interests. This isn't just warfare fraud. It's terrorism financing through public assistance programs. This isn't just random gibberish from a political commentator. That is the United States Treasury Secretary saying on live television that American tax-funded benefits are being wired overseas to terrorist organizations. And we've covered it many times on this channel. The fraud that Timmy Tampon Wallace and Keith Ellison allegedly looked the other way on funding people who want Americans dead. But wait, how did we even get to $19 billion out of one state?
Warning, the squad zone is under attack. Meet Ilhan, I married my brother Omar. She's cooking up a bowl of spicy curry and a sack full of fraud. Marriage certificate denied. Hacker VW Beetle with a whole new voter base. Bowl of curry not edible, brother not included, Beetle sold separately.
This is the part of the executive order signing that I absolutely loved. Stephen Miller explained in the Oval Office, and I need you to hear it clearly because the word system here, when he says it, absolutely matters.
That the Democrats have set up a system to funnel hundreds of billions and ultimately trillions of dollars to migrants that are in our country, oftentimes from places like Somalia. So as an example, ICE recently asked a group of illegal immigrants that were in detention whether or not they were receiving Medicaid. Half of them raised their hands and volunteered that they were on Medicaid. Just volunteered that. These aren't the ones who were hiding it, right? They also asked illegal aliens how they paid their medical bills, and they said that if they don't have Medicaid, they go to hospitals, they get free care there, and they bill it to the taxpayers. So they aren't paying for any of their own health care in this country. It's just one example.
They volunteered that they were on Medicaid, half of them. Let that sink in without even being asked to prove it. They just raised their hand. They said, yes, me. I'm guilty. These are the people ICE arrested in a detention facility who are in the country illegally. They're illegal. And half of them were enrolled in healthcare programs paid for by American citizens who work every day and have premiums deducted from their paychecks. You and me, they weren't hiding it. Why would they? Nobody had ever come to shut it down.
Because they're crooked. They make money. They gain power. They use it for power. Like with the Somalians, they vote in a block, 100%. They make a deal with the Somalians, they all vote because they're on a gravy train. It's money first, power second.
Money first, power second. Trump just described exactly why Democratic politicians don't want to fix this. They profit from it electorally. This is the part that should permanently change how we look at sanctuary city policies. It's not compassion like these people want you to think. It's transactional. You keep the benefits flowing, the community votes in a block, the politicians stay in power, and the American taxpayer funds the entire arrangement. Trump called it out like he was reading terms of a contract because that's essentially what it was.
We had, I guess, in the same state, you went autism, where 4 or 5 years ago, they spent $1 million, and now it's almost $400 million in just a few years. Well, autism didn't go up like that, and even the 1 million was probably a fraud, but it went from 1 million to almost 400 million in just a few years. These are crooked people. They basically said everybody in the state had autism.
1 million to 400 million on autism claims, you guys. We've covered this as well. Minnesota, the fraud capital of the United States, in just a few years, autism rates didn't increase 400 times. The billing did. This is the part that makes me absolutely sick. Think about what this means for actual autistic children in Minneapolis. JD told a story himself. Somalia pirate fraudsters were claiming their kids were autistic to steal benefits, which were meant for real autistic children in the suburbs of Minneapolis. They lost services that they were essentially entitled to. The fraud didn't just steal from taxpayers, they stole from disabled American kids. I'm going to rewind that back just in case you didn't hear that. They stole from disabled American kids. That's not collateral damage. That's the cost of looking the other way. Now let's talk about what happens to the people who allowed this. Trump didn't generalize. He he named people.
And Minnesota is really bad. The governor's corrupt. The attorney general is totally corrupt. And we got too many of them in our country. And we have to expose them. I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it. And you're going to have to do what you have to do.
I didn't hear him say allegedly. Let me know if you did in the chat. I didn't hear him say allegedly once. Timmy Tampon Walz, Keith Ellison named in the White House, and Trump's bias isn't speculation. It is the same platform Comer used, the same whistleblowers who came forward, the same DHS reports showing money flowing out of Minneapolis at rates that would make Las Vegas look financially conservative. The governor and the attorney general of Minnesota had this information. And the question the task force will answer is, what will they do with it?
Think of it. Somalia is a third world, maybe a fourth world nation. One of the worst, one of the most dangerous. They don't have anything. They don't have councils. They don't have government. They don't have police. They shoot each other all over the place. They come here and they steal $19 billion. That's crazy. And Ilhan Omar, I hope this is part of it, but she married her brother, supposedly. I mean, there's a lot of documentation. That means she's here illegally and she's a congresswoman. And I hope you're going to be looking at that, or somebody is, all right? Because she's one of the ringleaders here.
The task force that he signed into law will either find evidence of that or it won't. That's what's different about this particular moment. It's not just speech. It's not just a tweet. It is a legal constituted task force with subpoena power, Treasury involved, DOJ coordination, and JD Vance publicly on record promising results. The investigation either confirms what Trump said or doesn't. Either way, Minnesota leadership is about to have their financials examined like a prostate exam.
This is another promise made and kept by President Trump. He announced this in his State of the Union address and announced that the vice president would be overseeing this task force. So this is really going to establish a whole of government effort to fight fraud at both the state and the federal level in every state across the country.
Every state. Minnesota is the headline. California is 10 times worse by Trump's own account, and we've reported about it on this channel. The task force has a national mandate here. We're talking about California, Massachusetts, Maine, New York. These aren't flyover states with small programs. These are the largest Medicaid programs in the country, and the same structural failures. Agencies not talking to one another. Local politicians protecting the pipeline. Money flowing overseas exists in every single one of them. This executive order just pointed a federal spotlight on all of them simultaneously here. America, Stephen Miller used two words that should never be forgotten. First ever. In the history of the United States, no administration has made a formal whole of government attempt to recover money lost to this kind of fraud. Not once, ever. Every previous administration, Republican and Democrat, let it just continue. Some of them obviously looked the other way. Some, according to Trump, actively facilitated it. That, my friends, changed at the signing of this executive order, and it should. And here's what nobody's saying yet. The task force first real test isn't Minnesota. It's whether indictments follow the investigation. That's key. Press conferences are easy. Executive orders are signature. Accountability requires, obviously, prosecution, grand juries, and people going to prison. If Timmy Tampon, Walz, and Ellison are the people who ran these particular programs and they face zero criminal exposure, the task force simply just becomes another Washington performance. JD Vance said, no, I promise you, sir, on live camera, on video. That promise means nothing if it ends at a report nobody actually reads. The fraud ran for years because nobody wanted to find it. Now, somebody does. Remember, guys, follow the money. The task force has a map, and X marks the spot. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.